I don't even know where to start. We're both in our late 20s, been together for almost 10 years. We had ugly arguments before. We couldn't handle the situation well. But for a year, we haven't had a disagreement either. We could talk about anything. We basically live together in our own home, but on weekdays, I'm at the university, and I only travel home for the weekends. It only lasts for a few months per year, and I almost finished school. So this past weekend, he spent a day with his hobby. Totally fine. He even neglected it nowadays. And in the evening, he asked me if I'd want to hang out with his friend. He only has one friend who lives nearby, and they both work on the weekdays. I told him maybe because my eye got swollen and red. I asked him if it's fine, if he'd go alone. I even offered him a ride. He sounded irritated, so I told him I'd go if he'd want me to. He didn't say a word, so I got dressed and asked him, "Where are we going?" He said he goes alone. He didn't even kiss me goodbye. I told him that it hurt, and I wish we could spend some alone time too. So he went to his friend's house and texted me that all I want to do is make him feel bad because he spent the day with his hobby, and he didn't go out at all in the past 6 months. Firstly, I haven't said a word about spending the day with his hobby. I asked him how it was and what did he do. Secondly, in the past 6 months, we did a lot of things. We live in a tiny town, not much of a life here. But we went to a concert, to a ball, had 6 dinner nights with friends, and in January we met his friend at least once a week, but sometimes twice. The next day we went to a family dinner. Everything was good. We discussed that it was just a misunderstanding, and of course, we can spend alone time too in the future. But when we arrived home, he started again. That he doesn't have friends, and I want to take his only friend, and I won't let him go out at all. He told me before that I have a social life at uni, which is not really true. While he has no one at home. This came out of the blue because I never did any of this. In the past, when I didn't have time to meet his friend because I studied, he went alone and it was fine. After that, he went to his parents' house, and when he got home, he was irritated. Told me to shut up and leave him alone. I only asked him if he wants to join in the PS game we've played together. I cried a lot in the last few days. I just can't hold them back. I cry at everything. So I started crying and asked him if he loves me. He said yes, but still wants me to leave him alone. And this day we haven't talked a word, really. He only told me that there is nothing to discuss and he doesn't care about me and to leave him alone. Then he drove me to the train station to go back to the uni. He didn't even say goodbye. I'm in total disbelief. I don't know what is happening and why. He doesn't want to talk to me at all. I don't know if I should expect divorce papers when I get home next week, or if we could talk in the meantime. This is a 180 change. I don't even recognize him anymore. Edit to add. After 2 days of silence, I told him ugly things out of frustration too. Like he told me a few weeks ago that his friend doesn't care about him. They haven't talked in a month. And I told him that's fine. Spend his weekends with his non-existent friends instead of me. Also that he shouldn't be jealous that I have friends. I wish I could remember more. Because he said that after what I said, there is nothing we could discuss. But I think this was the worst I said. So I understand if he doesn't want to talk to me today because of it. But I still don't understand the last 2 days or how we could move forward together out of this. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I asked him if it's fine. If he'd go alone, I even offered him a ride. Also, I want to take his only friend, and I won't let him go out at all. This doesn't add up. Why is he really upset? 'Cause it ain't that. Comment 2. Stop wasting your time. It seems your relationship has run its course. If someone told me to shut up and leave them alone, I would, permanently. Sounds like he hates his life. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, things have spiraled since last time. Remember how I mentioned he was mad about me supposedly not letting him see his friend? Well, turns out, his friend spilled some old secrets that have been eating away at him. Apparently, years ago, I had confided in this friend about some doubts I had in our relationship. I never acted on them, but words have a way of haunting you. His friend, after a few drinks, let it slip, and my guy's been stewing in this newfound knowledge. He confronted me about it, and I couldn't deny it. I tried to explain that it was a long time ago, that people have doubts, and we've moved past it. But he wasn't having any of it. He said he felt betrayed, like our whole relationship was a lie. I tried to reason with him, but he shut down. He's been cold and distant ever since, like I'm a stranger in our own home. Then, as if that wasn't enough, he made a move that shocked me to my core. He took out a loan against our house without telling me. Said he needed it to figure things out and find himself. I was livid. That's our future he's gambling with, and he didn't even have the decency to discuss it with me. I felt like I didn't even know who he was anymore. In the midst of all this, I got a call from my university. There was an issue with my final project, something about plagiarism. I was floored. I've never cheated in my life, but someone had turned in a paper that was eerily similar to mine. I had to scramble to prove my innocence, which thankfully I did, but it was a close call and it made me realize how quickly things can fall apart. And just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. He started going out more, coming home late, and I could smell the perfume on his clothes. It wasn't mine. I confronted him and he didn't even try to hide it. Said he needed to feel something again, that I had made him numb. I was devastated. How could he throw away everything we had built together over a mistake from the past? I wanted to fix things, to make it right, but I didn't know how. So, in a moment of weakness, I reached out to his friend, the one who started all this. I thought maybe he could talk some sense into him, help him see that we were worth fighting for. But that was the wrong choice. His friend, it turns out, had his own agenda. He's been in love with me for years, and he saw this as his chance. Now, I'm stuck in a mess of my own making. My guy thinks I've betrayed him again, this time with his friend. And his friend is pushing for something more, something I don't want. I'm trying to pick up the pieces of my life, but it feels like every move I make just makes things worse. Thanks for reading through this mess. My partner hid $40,000 in debt and let his sister steal from us. So I took control and canceled the wedding to teach them a lesson in honesty. We have been together for 10 years. For at least the last 5, he has been lying to me about his finances. 5 years ago, we bought our house, and it was uncovered that he was in a lot of credit card debt. I helped him to pay this down, probably around $11,000, $13,000. I ended up putting the majority of the down payment down on the house, since he lied and wasn't saving any money at all. My credit score is excellent. I don't have debt other than student loans. We buy the house. I think I can trust him now that the cat was out of the bag. We move on with our lives, all is well. Fast forward to this year, about 2 weeks ago, he comes to me and tells me he has $40,000 in credit card debt and doesn't have a dollar to his name. We make the same amount of money, around $80,000 each per year. And we paid off his debt a few years ago, so I am hella confused and dumbfounded and shocked. He tells me he was lying to me back then and that he had more. Not sure I believe this because finances are put out in the open when buying the house. Anyway, I'm not totally sure because it was so many years ago, but I just don't think it was this bad. Plus, I helped him pay it all down. So, the situation now is this. We are 6 months from our wedding when he drops this bomb on me. He has no money for the wedding. He has no money at all. He has been lying to me for at least 5 years. He admits that. I have helped him with this once before, and feel like I'd be stupid to get into this situation again. I will lose him, my best friend, and all I've known for the last 10 years. As I have no family. I lose my house. I lose everything I've worked for by ending this. The other option is I become his parent, monitoring all expenses, his paychecks, his credit reports, give him an allowance. TBH. I don't want that for myself. That isn't partnership to me. I've always felt like the separate finances worked for us. That way I can buy whatever and he can buy whatever without us getting annoyed at the other. I like to shop, which is why this is so ironic. I'm the one who buys clothes, books, makeup, etc. And I have zero debt still. He has nothing to show for this debt he is in. He claims it's interest from years of making minimum payments. But like I said, I don't remember it being this much 5 years ago. He denies a gambling problem, but the math isn't mathing for this. I know he has made bets on things like FanDuel and gambling addiction does run in his family. However, we spend all our time together, so I have no idea how he could be gambling if that were the case. Another tidbit. We always put half our paychecks into a joint account, and this account is where expenses come out of, such as mortgage, bills, etc. It's never been a problem. I have plenty of money left over for savings and fun. I assumed he was in the same boat as me. So my question is this. What the frick do I do? I'm torn. I do love this man. But the lying for half the relationship, that's frightening, isn't it? Do we pick up the pieces? Wedding will need to be canceled regardless or walk away. Am I a freaking idiot for trusting the person I love to be able to handle their money? He's my best friend. I want to help him, but I'm also just so mad at him for all of this. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He has fooled you once. You will fool yourself this time if you legally bind yourself with him. He is taking advantage of the fact that you have no one else other than him. Worst case scenario, if you break up, you'll have to sell or split the house. This is still a best case scenario for you. To everyone else reading this, never get a joint asset with someone who has debt. The right time to make a decision was 5 years ago. Comment 2. If he is racking up huge debt with nothing to show for it, then it's almost certainly being spent on alcohol, drugs, or gambling, or maybe cryptocurrency, which in my opinion is basically gambling. You should definitely put the wedding on hold and get some financial or legal advice about how his debts affect you now and if you did get married. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around. So much has happened since my last post. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. My fiance's sister, who's always been a bit of a wild card, decided to throw a wrench into our already chaotic lives. She came over unannounced, tears streaming down her face, claiming she was getting a divorce and had nowhere to go. Feeling for her, we let her stay with us. But it wasn't long before I noticed money missing from our joint account. Small amounts at first, then hundreds of dollars. When I confronted her, she broke down and admitted to taking it, saying she needed it for lawyer fees and promised to pay it back. I wanted to believe her, but my trust was already hanging by a thread. Then, as if on cue, another bomb dropped. My fiance's car was repossessed right out of our driveway. Turns out he hadn't made payments in months, and all the notices had been going to his work address, which he'd been conveniently forgetting to bring home. The car, which he claimed was paid off, was another lie. I was livid. How could I have been so blind? The aftermath was a mess. We fought, he apologized, and I, like a fool, forgave him. Again, I started to take control of all our finances, but it felt wrong. I was his partner, not his parent. Yet, I couldn't bring myself to leave. I had invested too much time, too much of myself into this relationship. Amidst this financial turmoil, his sister's true colors showed. She wasn't getting a divorce. She was hiding from debt collectors. She had been using our address to take out loans, and now they were after her, and by extension, us. I was furious, feeling betrayed by both of them. But my fiancé, ever the mediator, convinced me to give her a chance to sort things out. As if we weren't dealing with enough, the next event hit us like a ton of bricks. My fiancé lost his job. He said it was downsizing, but I overheard a phone call that told a different story. He was fired for poor performance, likely because he was too stressed about the debt. Now, with only one income, the wedding was definitely off the table. I started to see the cracks in my life with him. The lies, the deceit, the financial ruin. But every time I thought about leaving, I remembered the good times, the love, the connection we had. I was torn between my head and my heart. His sister eventually left, not with a heartfelt goodbye, but with a slew of excuses and empty promises to repay us. I doubted we'd ever see that money again. My fiancé and I were left to pick up the pieces of our shattered finances and trust. I know you're probably screaming at me to get out of this toxic situation, but it's not that simple. He's all I have. Despite everything, I can't imagine my life without him. I'm not oblivious to the chaos, but I'm holding on to the hope that we can get through this, that we can rebuild what's been broken. Thanks for reading. Or, my boyfriend got another girl pregnant. Before we met, and she's causing drama. But when she showed up at my door, I made sure she'd regret crossing me. My boyfriend, 33 years old, and I, 37 years old, met on a dating app and have been together for around 5 months. We are technically long distance, but he only lives an hour away and visits me, NYC, most weekends. Right before we met, it turns out he had gotten a girl, also in NYC, pregnant, and she had a baby unaliving. They were never in a relationship. He was upfront about this fact and said they were no longer speaking. But a few months later, I found out they actually went to college together and are in the same friend group, and the baby unaliving had gone wrong, and she was hospitalized. She apparently was very upset to learn he was dating again, and even messaged me saying he never told her about me when they started talking again. I took this to mean that she still has feelings for him, but I genuinely think my boyfriend keeps in touch with her because he feels bad about the situation. She was having a hard time with things, so my boyfriend met up with her one evening at a coffee shop after she flipped out that he was in NYC and didn't tell her. I'm positive nothing happened. They continued fighting over text for weeks, and he went over to her apartment one day to talk things out. My boyfriend was very open with me about their communication. I am 100% sure nothing happened between them. One day, I get a text from her saying that my boyfriend had told her I was encouraging him to harass her after she asked him to leave her alone, and he had sent her flowers and written a letter and telling me to stop. I was very weirded out that it sounded like he was trying to blame me for the situation, and that she was claiming she had told him to leave her alone. I knew about the flowers but was unaware of other dynamics. My boyfriend said she was just being crazy, and apparently they had a huge fight and she told him to never speak to her again. I finally thought this was over, but 2 months later she called him upset about the baby unaliving again. Now, my boyfriend has agreed to have lunch with her on a Saturday. I trust him and don't believe that he would cheat on me. But should I actually be okay with this? I feel bad for the girl because she is clearly traumatized. But I also think my boyfriend has done his best to apologize, and she won't accept it, is dragging it out. Edit. I want to clarify that he ended things with her, and I believe a lot of her behavior stems from jealousy, plus being obsessed with him. I know for a fact he is not physically cheating. Apart from this issue, he treats me very well, makes an effort, is obsessed with me, which makes me feel conflicted about why it would be so obvious to leave him. I believe he is trying to mature as a person, and so is trying to make things right with the girl. But what I'm pondering is where my line of understanding should end. I get it, everyone hates me. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I cannot understand why you trust this guy 1 inch. He most likely cheated on this girl with you. He blames you for his behavior towards her. He tells you she's crazy and likely tells her that you're crazy. It sounds like he wants to keep this woman on the line as an option and wants her to be at least a little dependent on him. He is meeting up with her because he wants to. Make no mistake, this isn't just about guilt. He is sending her flowers because he chooses to. He is no hero. Is being single really so scary that you'll put up with this man? Comment 2. Are there no other men left in the world or something? It's only been 5 months. This is supposed to be the part of the relationship which is fun and romantic, not drama. It won't get better. My boyfriend said she was just being crazy. He probably says the same thing to her about you, which is why you're getting that hostility from her. You really don't know this man, and it doesn't look good. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So where do I even start? The last 2 weeks have been pretty up and down, and not the fun kind. After my boyfriend went to have lunch with his ex, things took a turn for the worse. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, crying and screaming that she was still in love with him. She claimed they had been seeing each other behind my back for months. I didn't want to believe her, but the doubt crept in. My boyfriend denied everything, of course, but the trust was broken. Then, as if things couldn't get any messier, I found out I was pregnant. I was shocked and scared, and when I told my boyfriend, he panicked. He suggested an baby unaliving, saying we weren't ready. It felt like history repeating itself. and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was just trying to avoid responsibility. But I decided to keep the baby. When I told him, he broke down, apologizing for even suggesting a baby unaliving. He said he'd support whatever decision I made. It was a moment of vulnerability I hadn't seen in him before, and it made me question everything. The next day, his ex contacted me again. She had proof of their affair, texts, photos, the works. My world shattered. I confronted him, and he couldn't deny it anymore. He begged for forgiveness, saying he was lost and confused, and that he loved me. I was furious, hurt, and felt utterly betrayed. I wanted to leave him, I really did. But then he did something unexpected. He went to therapy, started opening up about his fears of commitment and fatherhood. He was really trying to change. And despite everything, I saw the man I fell in love with. I forgave him. Some might call it weakness or desperation, maybe it is. But I saw a man who made a terrible mistake and was willing to do the work to fix it. I'm not saying it's been easy. Trust is hard to rebuild, and every day is a struggle. But we're trying for us and for our future child. Thanks for reading this far. It's been a rough ride, but I'm holding on. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.